Alright, in this video we're going to be doing this part right here. So running JavaScript in the terminal with arguments. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do some examples. I'm going to go ahead and make a new directory here. We'll call it JavaScript terminal. And copy everything from the other directory. And we'll look at each one in turn. So we already have something there called arguments. Let's start with some of the other ones. Okay. Okay, we'll go with this for loop. And so say we want to make this so that we can specify what the ranges are. Actually, I think we already have that. Well, let's just look at this one first. So what this is going to do is it starts the variable x at 0, adds 10 to x each time in the loop, goes until it gets up to 100 and prints. So it's going to start at 0. It's not going to print 100 because this goes as long as x is less than 100. And we run this on the server with Node. There's our 0 up to 100. 0 up to 90. Let's look at the arguments file. We'll put this into R4. We'll put this in and then see how it's working. So I want someone to run this like this. I want them to say what the start is going to be, what the end is going to be, and the increment. And for that to work right, I'm going to set it like this. Var start equals. So there's something called process that's in here, and there's something called argv. That has anything that gets typed like this when we run it. So the way we're going to run it is like this. 0 up to 100, go by 10. Or if we wanted to stop at 90, then perhaps we'll run it like this. Okay, so inside the program, this process.argv gives us a way to get these values that the user types when they run our program. And the way this works is process.argv is list of command line arguments. If they ran node42.js 0 90, 10, then we would have process.argv bracket 0 is node, so that's the first thing that was type. Process.argv1 is for2.js. Process.argv2 is the next thing, which was 0. Process.argv3 is 90, that's the next thing. Process.argv4 is 10. And then we'd also have process.argv.length. That's supposed to be the number of things that are there, which is 5. Okay, so these square brackets get individual parts of the arguments, and it starts counting at 0. And the node and the for2.js are there as well. The ones we're actually interested in start at index 2 here. So I should have index 2, and then the end should be which one? Next one, which is 3, var increment equals process.argv4. That's the last one. Okay, so in here with our loop, instead of starting x at 0, we'll start it at start. Instead of stopping at 100, we'll do less or equal to end. And instead of going up by 10, we'll go up by increment. Okay, so depending on whether we have any errors here, this should do what we want. Okay, that did not do what we want. That's printing lots of stuff. Okay, I believe the reason is because, if we look at this, the 0, the 90, and the 10, those are all in quotes. And in JavaScript, something in quotes is a string, and it's treating these as strings. So this x is a string, this x is a string. When you do plus with strings, it joins the two strings together. It's not treating them as integers. So let's try out making these integers. And the way to do that in JavaScript is with parseInt. This will be in the math video. But if you have a string and you want to make it an integer, you do parseInt. Okay, let's try that again. Node for2.js 0, 90, 10. Alright, there it is. Okay, so what we have to remember is that process.argv, that's all case sensitive, is a list of the command line arguments. You get to them by doing square bracket 0 up to however many there are, and .length tells you how many there are. With our program here, we expect 3 extra things. So if the number of things is less than 5, they didn't give us enough. So let's just say I said 0, 90. Okay, let me look up what the right function is there. Okay, so if they don't have enough, then this will be less than 5. We tell them, or not enough. Not enough command line arguments given, and then we print the usage. So that's what they were supposed to do, and then process.exit will stop the program. Then the rest of this stuff doesn't happen, which is good, because if the length is less than 5, these things don't actually exist. So here it is, node 42.js 090, and it just gives the usage statement there. Alright, if they do have enough, then we have process.argv bracket 2 is the first thing that's there. If we want to think of it as an integer, we have parseInt. So then we have our different arguments here that we pull out and then use them. So your general outline here is you want to check that there are enough things that you expect. If there are not, then you print a statement and exit. Otherwise, you pull out the arguments and maybe convert them if needed, and then go ahead and use them. So that was our first example. Don't think we need this one anymore. Let's see what else we have that we could convert. And okay, functions.js. So this was one that converted from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and I just ran the stuff for many different temperatures here, but instead what I'd like to do is have this temperature T come off of the command line with this process.argv. So what you might do is you could pause, take a look at this, and then take a look at for2.js. Basically I'm going to copy paste this and make changes. So what would need to change right here to make it work in this program? Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and do that, copy paste and make a change. So now what we're expecting them to type is something like functions.js and then just a single number, temp in Fahrenheit. Okay, so then there's going to be 1, 2, 3 total things there. If it's less than 3, then it's a problem. And now I'm just going to have one thing, T. The others are not going to be there, so it's bracket 2 there. And it could be that they type something that has a decimal point in it, so I'll use parse float. And then I won't have this part here. And then we'll see whether that works. First we test it with no arguments, and it gives us the usage statement. Now we'll test it with 100 Fahrenheit. 100 Fahrenheit is 37.7 repeating. Let's do 212. There it is, so that seems to be correct. And why don't we actually, we'll call that something more descriptive. We'll call it convert C. And then we should update the usage statement in convert C. So instead of functions.js, it is convert C. And we'll go ahead and, instead of for2.js, that was printing numbers, print nums.js. And we should update the usage statement there as well. So this is print nums. And if we run it, then this would actually be what it is, because it's now called print nums. Okay, so that's two examples. And I'll go ahead and put the quiz question and answer in for this video. The question will be, when will we have true AI, true artificial intelligence, meaning can do the things that humans can do and think and learn and stuff like that? And the answer will be 20 years from the present. Always 20 years for the present. And you can Google to see what I'm talking about there. Let's go ahead and take a look at, if we're going to do maybe one more example here. So we have print nums. Maybe, let's see. Sure, we'll go ahead and do this one as well. So this prints a different message depending on the temperature. And now this is very similar to what we did with the conversion, because there's a single variable that we would like to take as an argument, the degrees here. So we'll go to our convert C and copy paste from there, because that's closer to what we want to do in the other program, the if2. And instead of calling this if2, why don't we call it temp message.js. Okay, so if they're not 3, then we're going to give a statement, and it's not called convert C. This one is called temp message. Now the degrees, instead of being 36, we'll take it from the command line and call this degrees. So the rest of the code doesn't have to change. We just set up the degrees variable. Let's see, node temp message. If you don't give it any arguments, it complains. If I give it an argument, then it gives the appropriate output. You could ask what happens if I give it something that's not a number. So to give an educated guess, you want to go over and look at the code and see what would happen. Process.argv.length will be okay, because there is an extra thing there. There will be 1, 2, 3 items there. So that would be okay, and then we go in here and it's going to run parse float, but inside of there is process.argv bracket 2. So if this here is the string hello, that would be okay, but then it tries to run the parse float function, and either there are different things you could imagine would happen. It could give an error, it could give you 0, you'd have to look it up or try it. It's not necessarily going to do what you would want, that's why you have to look it up or try it. So let's try. Okay, and there was no output. So what that looks like probably happened. It wasn't an error, it didn't crash, it didn't give an error statement, but none of these conditions was true. So the degrees must have been some other value. So we could print here we could say degrees plus degrees F. Alright, and then we'll see what the temperature was when we ran it like that. And it's saying NaN, which is a special value in JavaScript that means not a number. So when the parse float tried to convert this, it returned not a number. Alright, so I think that's enough of examples taking arguments. Basically, you can take any of the programs that we already had, and you can add this part where you check the length to make sure it's okay, and then you pull out the arguments. Alright, we're going to pause the video for a second. Okay, we have a lab assignment now. The files we just looked at are the ones that are here, cleaned out the other ones. So those are examples. Now let's take a look at the lab assignment. which will be Lab 12. The reading assignment for this lecture is, so none of this is in the W3 schools. I just made a note in our study guide, JavaScript in the terminal. We've already used Node to run our JavaScript programs. Now we know how to take arguments. And this here is just a description of what we have done in our examples. Let's go ahead and look at the lab assignment, Lab 12. So we have Lab 12 now. And this says to copy your solutions from Lab 11. And so you'll have a new directory, Lab 12, in your homework directory. You can copy your Lab 11 solution for problem 1 and make it Lab 12 for problem 1. And then this here says that we're going to make each of them so they take command line arguments. And I'll give a demo of what the correct solutions should run like. So I'll do that first. These are my solutions. So node lab12 underscore 1.js. Okay, so if we run it with no command line arguments, it gives this. And if we go back and look at lab 12 or lab 11, then that first one was supposed to print the multiples from 0 to 39. So instead of that, we should do like we did in the for loop example. Actually, the for loop example gives you problem 1 here. You just have to copy it and make the right name. But if I do something like this, then that works. Or if I want to count from 1 to 20, then I would count by 1. Okay, so that's the first one. I just took this program and made these as arguments to the program. So you'll have to use what we've done in this video. Alright, for the second one, let's run lab 12.2. So this says it's going to convert, and I'm supposed to give it a miles. So if I give it 1, it tells me that is 1.6, etc. kilometers. If I give it 100, it would do that. Say I give it 500, the length of the Indianapolis race. Okay, so that's lab 12.2. So you still have the same conversion formula in there, but now you're just going to take it as an argument. Okay. Node lab 12.3. So this takes one argument, and if I give it, say, 250,000, it prints the correct statement for that income range according to the lab 11 assignment. If I do 150,000, that should be in a different range. So greater than 200,000 was one range, 150 to 200,000 is another range. Those are out of order there. I'll fix that in a second. So let's do 175 should be the second range. And that's the second one here. Okay, so whichever one I am in, if I say 12,000, then that's the lowest range in my statement there. So no matter what you run it on, the if statement should print the correct information. The next one was the conversion to base 3. Okay, the example we used last time was 51, which gave this. Now we're going to take, instead of 51, it's an argument, so I can run it with any number and it should give me the correct base 3 number. The last one is the prime program, so start to end, 10 to 20 was the example we used in the last, but whatever I tell it, it should give me the right answers. So between 90 and 100, there are no primes. Let's go up to 110, still no primes. 120, there's a problem. Let's just fix that. Okay, so between 90 and 100, there's 97. If we go up to 110, there's some more. The problem, and I just fixed my program, the problem was I wasn't doing parse int like we did in the earlier examples in this video. So we have this process.argv bracket whatever. If we're supposed to be an integer, we should use parse int. If it's supposed to be note, use parse int or parse float if needed to convert the arguments. The arguments by default are strings. Okay, so that's the way it should work. Let's go ahead and look at the lab check. Here I am in a, I'm just going to go ahead and remove my lab 12 that I just created. I'm in my class account here. If I run lab check, lab 12, let's remove lab 12 again. Okay, so if I don't have a directory, then it tells me I need to make my directory, lab 12. Lab 12, let's run it again. This is like before, and then it says I don't have any of those files. I'm supposed to copy my files from the previous one. Let's see, that would be in my lab 11 directory. Okay, so now it runs my lab 12 underscore 1. For this, it's running it on different inputs. So this one here should print 0 up to 90. It's just a copy of my program from last time, so it's still printing this. Okay, if I happen to print this one correctly, then it would test another one. So let me give a program that. So one thing you might do is you could just make lab12 underscore 1.js, and I could say console.log 0/n prints a new line, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Alright, so that would print 0 to 90, but it's not a good program because it only prints that specific set. So if I run lab check lab 12 now, it got through the first test, but now when it runs my program with this input, it doesn't do that correctly because I just hard-coded these values in. So I will, the lab check will run a few different important test cases, and then when I grade it, I may add some others just to make sure and look at your code as well. If we look over here, the note here says that, and also if your code is somehow giving the right output even though it's wrong, that would be considered as wrong depending on what's going on. Okay, so that should be enough for you to go ahead and get started on lab 12. Good luck. Let's check to make sure we got everything done here. Yep, the end.